Of course, I have a severe case of ADHD and or all of those things that you're supposed to have as a business owner. So I've been putting this off for a while, but we need to film some podcasts, as I'm being informed by our marketing consultant. Yes, the marketing company has a marketing company, because once you get to a certain point, even doctors need doctors, right? So I'd like to welcome you to the Command Post. I'm Dave Kryszczak. I am the founder and president of Spartan. Going into our first decade in business here. Quick story, if we haven't met, as we're going to start doing these, I'll introduce myself every time. At 16 in high school, I was fixing computers for people in school, and a buddy of mine's dad called me one day and he asked me to build him a website as a plumber. I said yes. I hung the phone up and I didn't know how to build a website. I learned, then later became certified and all of that. And now Spartan is generating approximately $100 million a year in revenue for our clients in the home services space with 15 full-time All-American employees. And we are the Special Forces marketing and website development team for home service companies and contractors in 35 states all across the United States. So that's how we got here. The team and I have been putting together some notes on what's important coming out of our client meetings. We typically meet out of our clients, we meet with over half of them monthly, about 30% of them bi-weekly, and then 10-15% of them weekly, and the rest on quarterly and annual basis. And out of those meetings, we record most of them. So we pull a lot of stuff that we're physically talking about, and that's what I want to derive into this podcast. From a structure perspective, just going to talk through shop talk. I'm not going to do anything in any acronyms. I'm not an acronym fan here. And that's about it. So the biggest thing from the last accumulation of all of our notes is what happens when the phone stops ringing. And I'm going to keep talking, but I would like to have you join me for a cigar. I'm not going to do anything official here. Normally I'm in suits and ties. I come from a musical background in school, but now t-shirts and shorts and all that. So I'm going to keep talking while I go get a cigar. But the home services space, I've noticed, is always really rough, because what I see happening is these people, you get into business, you're a painter, you're a plumber, you're an electrician, doesn't matter. You typically were a great operator and great men and women. I mean, real patriots, most of them. And you get into business because you want to do it the right way. And this influx of leads come in. It's from your family. It's from your friends. It's from you going to local networking events. You get a lot of referrals. You do really good work because John the painter is the painter, right? So it's his name, it's his notoriety, it's his brand. And then what happens is you start to grow. And we've noticed this too, even as the marketing company that does most of this stuff for companies like that. The quality will go down a little bit while you're doing that change into what then becomes a good growth spurt, but you got to survive through that change. And what I've noticed is, believing on the referrals as a value, listen, referrals are always going to come in, right? Hopefully, pending that you do good work and that you're a reputable human and that you don't rip people off, which unfortunately we do have contractors in the world that do that. So the predictability of all of that becomes my main concern, putting my CMO hat on. Some of our clients, we are their agency of record, an old school term for anything that touches marketing. We represent that for them. So when that happens and they come and they say, hey, Dave, these are going great. I'm getting 10 leads a month, but I need more and I don't know where to get them from. That's where marketing might come in. Marketing for referrals is more of an advanced tactic. I won't talk about that today on the B2B side. Word of mouth's not a growth strategy, right? I always say, that's awesome, John the painter. If those referrals didn't come in for 30 days, what happens to your business, right? We're in a different business than most people. We get paid monthly most time. So most of this is working with the accounting team and the finance team, if you have that. If not, it's working with your wife or whoever does the books of how many referrals come in, what mixture is that of the flow of your marketing. And I don't want to make sure that one avenue is not too much revenue, because if that happens, then if an algorithm changes or if that salesperson quits that brings in 60% of your revenue, or if something happens, your company's going to go under overnight. And I see that more on the advanced side of some of the larger firms we work with. Of their mix has to be right. It's not just all Google. It's not all referrals. It's not all salespeople. It's not all pounding payment. It's a really healthy combo of all of those things to help hit your goals. And we break that down by segmentation of what divisions of the business need to get that type of marketing so it works. I always notice too that marketing translates into a sales conversation very often. We as the marketing agency sometimes get blamed for the sales team's lack of results or too much thereof, or something's not happening there. An old coach used to say, activity does not always equate to performance. And I noticed that in the sales world of, you can go to all these events and see all these people and do all this stuff. Nothing really translates if you don't have a strategy around that, like a business development strategy or a business development playbook, or how your business will get those leads. In the home services world, events really aren't that best unless you do a lot of sub work for general contractors, or doing things in the union world, or doing things in the ABC world for Merit Shop, or both. And that, that activity needs to be with intent, right? And I want to see the sales team or something going out and actually, how do we do with that event? How many new contacts? Are we going to send them ads based off of what you said to them or what they said to us? Or how do they get this kind of email versus that kind of email? You really want to get that niche when you have sales professionals doing their job in a high performing way. But then sometimes they'll try to hide with that activity of, I go to 47 events a month. Well, that's great, Sally, the salesman. What's the number you're bringing in? Or how many new contracts, or how many new deals? And then are you winning those deals? Not our department. I just noticed marketing and sales typically go in hand. So we want to be careful about that. And I equate that to the marketing division of any company, small, large, solopreneur, $100 million company. We've worked with all of them. I see a lot of activity online, a lot of social media posting, a lot of we're doing this, right? Well, full disclosure, we're doing all this, right? So that we can get a long form of me riffing. We're going to cut it up into clips. We're going to put it on YouTube. We're going to put it on LinkedIn. It's going to go all kinds of places. But that activity is deriving to performance of you hearing about what we're doing and just our thoughts on the profession. But I see that activity on the client side when we bring in new clients of they're posting all this stuff on social media. Susie from the office just graduated from college. She's young. She's Gen Z. I'm Gen Z. I'm 27. And there's activity happening, but it's not designed to do anything, right? Meanwhile, there's some companies running hundreds of millions of dollars of ads that don't even have them going to the correct landing page. They don't have any of the tracking set up to know if we spend $1, how many dollars do we get back? Some of our best clients, with all due respect to them, that's all they care about. And that we respect that from a transparency thing. It's part of our warrior culture at Spartan of being radically honest. And if it's going to work, it's great. If it's not, we got to talk about it, right? And really keeping that honesty in the lead generation business and the website business is very tough sometimes. But our best clients, and culturally, we respect that as a firm too. We have thick skin. Yeah, the no tracking, the lack of analytics, not that you as an owner or you as a senior decision maker need to know everything. I love to educate our clients in basic human terms, money in, money out, right? Like the casino. And advertising is definitely professional gambling at times, depending on who you're going up against. But it's the, for your role or for you as a leader, how much you want to learn versus how much that's being done for you by your staff, by an agency, by professionals. That tracking is what physically is important to me as a fellow business owner. And then something that looks really good online, like your website or your brand or your trucks or your billboard, and it's just not converting, or it's not designed to get a prospect or a potential customer to do something. An old school thing I used to say right when I started is all these platforms, the Googles, the socials, the Yelps, the Nextdoors, all these places you run ads or post stuff. That's all designed to get people to, back in the day, come to your website, right? And then the website is, hey, I'm Dave, here's my team, we do this, we can help you. And then that website is designed to get people to say, I would like to do free consult, free estimate, come to my house, or, oh my God, I need you right now, there's an emergency, right? Think of emergency responders. If, the fire department got all their 911 calls from Facebook, we'd be in a big sort of trouble, right? Everybody knows just to call that number and you're going to get help. Same thing in the demand generation business. If you're in disaster recovery or woodworking, tree work, anything that involves that world, that phone rings, you're on it, right? And that, I think of that for all of our companies now. When people talk about speed to lead and stuff, it's always kind of been preached. But now with the world of AI and just the automationness of everything, being on top of when somebody says, hey, I'd like to talk to you specifically because I like what you have to say, or I like who you donate to, or I like what you're doing. Really important that you track that properly and that you're on top of it as an owner. And that trickles down, I think, to the rest of the company. I am doing notes so I stay on track. Otherwise, we'll be out here till 10, 11, 12 o'clock, which happens on some Friday evenings on occasion. I do notice, which is funny, speaking of, we're talking about calls and tracking and all that. One thing in our business, maybe I see that too, just professional services in general. As we frame out this podcast, I kind of just see it, obviously for marketing, but then just, professional services too, because it all blends pretty well. Not waiting for jobs to slow down or for you to have no work or for you to be losing money, hemorrhaging money, to then say, I need ads, I need agency stuff, I need leads. Alex Hormozy talks about that a lot, of the, that like first $100,000 mentality of like that safety net mentally in your mind. Dave Ramsey also talks about that kind of stuff, just as an owner. But in the marketing world, I kind of see that as like, we want to see a baseline of something, right? Startups are really hard to advise. And I have been asked by friends to advise startups. And my number one piece of advice is go sell something first and then dump a bunch of money into marketing the success that you perform for that client, or those small book of clients that you do the work for free or you do the work for a very small fee. You got to have data to demonstrate that you know what the hell you're talking about, right? Because now with AI, people can scam the living daylights off of you with everything that's going on. Same thing at home services. You have a lot of PE buying these companies. They're fizzling the operations department. They become a fraction of the company they once were. That owner's not involved. The reputation is in the trash can. And we get a phone call to say, oh, well, this company's got no more leads. We need it to have 187 a day by tomorrow, because that's what we bought it at from a valuation perspective. It's just not possible. The slowdown of the train does not mean dump more fuel on a fire that might be going out, right? Your competitors obviously notice that, and they will begin to keep and start out ranking you. And you may notice that, in your mind, there's some competitors that you're like, oh, I hate John's Roofing. I'm Dave's Roofing. I hate John. He sucks. I see him at the bar. He's always buying everybody drinks. He's crushing it. He might not even be your competition, right? I would always recommend Google your own business name. And if there's anybody running ads against your business name, that's probably a direct competition. They're trying to pay to get somebody to call you instead of them. Funny example, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you go and look up Cadillac to buy a car and Ford comes up first and says, hey, have you given us a try? Right? That's a competitive ad that people might be doing in your business that you want to keep an eye on, especially if revenue's slowing up and things. They might be trying to sabotage your brand. We see that a lot in the paid media space. We don't like to play that way. It's a big budget drainer. Google loves it because they're like a lawyer in that regard. They kind of take money from both sides and just keep arguing and arguing and arguing back and forth. And you just pay more for your own brand. If you're big enough, you're going to have to do it. But it's just one of those little things of, things are starting to slow down. You think to throw more money just into your own name. I don't see that working too well on the small to medium business side. I see that working well in enterprise situations, because your competitors can track that to the T with all the transparency laws and everything that Google now has to abide by in traditional search. I'm not talking about AI. We might need a separate 4 to 5 to 6 hour seminar on AI, because today is June 9th, 2026. It's probably going to change by the time this episode's posted, by the time we talk about it in a month. Just to riff on that a little bit, the AI space, when people think about regulated industries and what, they think of the internet as the wild, wild west, it is mildly regulated in terms of what the algorithm is designed to do. I don't have all the technical citations for you, but at one time when I was in the collegiate world, I did do some papers on how Google was manipulating the algorithm based off of your own ecosystem, which now, as we know, AI is framing all of that around you for your own little personal ecosystem in terms of what you buy, what you do, how you act, how your customers act. And that turns into more of a mind frame of, do they, customers aren't just going to Google, look at the first 3 search results anymore and make a phone call. A lot of them are asking AI, who do I call? And they're calling the first phone number, and that's it. I mean, they ask chat or they voice chat, and they're making a decision. That is still completely unregulated by our government here in the US. The EU is doing a little bit more ahead of that. And the reason why I say the regulation piece is Google search and Google Ads and those types of things have the same architectural structure that they've had, just like a bridge, right? The bridge is the bridge. It's been the bridge since 1952. They've done little patchworks on it, but it's still the same bridge that you still drive over to work, right? In the AI world, the bridge is there, but we don't know how they built it. We don't know what materials it's made out of. We don't know how many times a year it needs maintenance. We don't know anything about it because there's not been enough lawsuits yet to get the federal government or a government to say, Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, these companies, hey, I'd like to see under the hood of, what that engine runs and what's in there. In the old school search world, that has happened. If you've read about the monopolization stuff with Google and Facebook and all these guys and election transparency laws and those types of things, they're all required to disclose certain technical pieces of how these things work, which we, as the companies that work inside of them for a living, get access to and we can research. That's not fully developed yet with AI. It's so new. And I think we have this kind of .com boom going on with that. I wasn't alive by then. I was just a wee young lad there. But I think it's that mental from the friends I've talked to in the tech and the B2B space on where we're really going with that. And I think it's kind of the Wild West right now. Something we're looking at, is ChatGPT ads, right? Google Gemini is obviously going to start integrating some ads just like Google ads. But then again, when you look at the business reportings from a straight P&L perspective, Google's not losing any money on Google ads or Google AdSense. If anything, they're making more because the AI is driving so much more traffic in a directed way. The question becomes, who gets what direction and why? Right? Are you paying for it? Do you get ads? Do you not get ads? Can we just show you a YouTube video and we get the money either way? Or do you have to go to an extracurricular site or a research paper or those kinds of things? So just kind of that AI-ness of the world of right now in the middle of 2026. I still see it as we're going out to the Wild West to try to find some gold in them hills. And there's definitely gold there. We just got to start picking for it. The guys have a couple sales things on this I'm not going to talk about. I do think, though, to mention, just as an honorable note, if you're looking at what do we even start tracking, right? A lot of newer companies that come to us, or when I say newer, 0 to 5 million, of what the hell do we actually track? What do we look at from an ownership perspective to see if what we have right now is working? What I would ask your internal professionals, your external professionals, yourself, your partner, whoever you're doing this business with, where do the leads come from? I have some guys that literally have given it to me on a sheet of paper, right? The secretary writes down every time a call comes in where it comes from, right? Still in 2026, yes. There are paper files and things do get sent by the U.S. mail. Where are we losing leads, right? Can we not schedule enough? Can we not get them on the appointment? Are we booked too far out? Are we booked too soon? That whole, sales marketing crossover. And what does our competition do better? And I think a derivative of that question, who is our true competition? If we're talking just home services, right? When Mrs. Jones calls somebody for a new roof, right? Let's assume she's going to get 2 bids, not even 3. I'm not going to play the old 3 bid thing, right? Who's that other person that she calls? Is it just the next person? Is it her husband's brother's friend? Is it next door neighbor? Is it maybe, asking those questions during that process will help, even if you lose. And Mrs. Jones, very sorry we couldn't service you on this, blah, blah, blah. I really wanted to know so we can help the next customer. Where do we lose out, right? That helps the marketing team, that helps the sales team. You figure out that visibility before you dump all this money into a giant ad campaign or SEO or AIEO and all that new stuff. See what's working right now, and you might be able to refine that a little bit. In the Spartan world, I like our defensive and our offensive tactics, right? Defensive is our stuff, what we own, our intellectual property. The Google My Business profile, the website performance, your actual reviews. Like I said, you can't hide crap work. We can try really hard, but it's just not. If you're an unethical business person, A, you're not a good fit for us, but B, you're not a good fit for that world of home services. The public knows how to speak up when they're not satisfied, and you have seen that. And just your SEO visibility. There's tools, public tools, just Google free website audits for SEO, right? We're also happy to provide one for you for no sales, no nothing. There were some tools that we pay for that are able to give that to you. And that gives you, hey, who do you actually rank up against when people like Mrs. Jones search for you in your marketplace? And that will be able to give you kind of what's going on from your side. You can own that, right? You can make physical changes to your intellectual property and your assets to make that better. And then from a leaky bucket perspective, kind of what, on the offensive side, what might not be working properly, a little bit more on the defense too. Are we missing calls, right? Don't ask me about AI call centers right now. We're going to pin that for another episode. But how do we process calls? How do we determine the priority of the calls, right? For commercial versus resi versus emergency versus non-emergency, et cetera, et cetera. That speed to lead, the slow follow-up stuff like I was talking about earlier. If we tell Mrs. Jones we're going to call her back in under 60 minutes, do we do that, right? And then on the defensive side, is the website and the call to actions that you want actually being done properly in your messaging? Call us today for a free estimate. Does the button work on your website so that they can call and they can click the button on their phone and it actually calls them, right? Little stuff, you might think it sounds like commonplace, but common sense isn't too common, right? That's a good line in here too. I do like having some notes. Most companies don't need more traffic. They need to stop losing the traffic they already have. And more numbers doesn't mean more success either, especially in the analytics. Agencies that try to lie about more big numbers typically are hiding a lot more than that. What else do we have here? A little bit more on the action side of this, just the actual questions like we just talked about. Do you know where the last 20 phone calls came from? How many calls go unanswered? When's the last time you actually looked at, like, Google yourself? Google you, the owner, right? Google your employees, Google your business name, right? If you have any litigation, is that finished? Is that, stuff like that comes up when people look you up. And that a lot of consumers really base that decision in the court of public opinion of what's coming up when they Google you, when they Bing you. And then is your competitors running those ads like we just talked about, right? Pretty good score. In terms of a little bit more technical mumbo jumbo too, I'll give you a couple more tactical things. Just going to read it. In terms of like immediate actions that you could take just yourself, it might take 5 minutes. Like I just said, Google yourself, test your website. Literally go to, I believe it's Pingdom, Pingdom. We'll put some tools in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. And if not, just shoot me a DM or shoot me an email. We will send you all the tools and we're not selling you anything, I promise. Like I said, we're more about the education piece of this side. Making sure your website works. Test all the buttons. You, physically, whoever's watching this, go to the website, test all the buttons, call all the phone numbers. Make sure if you have tracking phone numbers that they're set up to go to your actual number. How many reviews? How recent are your reviews? And then a little more 102 stuff. Are you actually asking your customers for them at the perfect time during an interaction? There's a lot of really great pieces of software. Applause is something that we've seen a lot of our clients use. We don't recommend one tool over the other, but then there's a couple manual processes too. Kind of as the guys and gals are sweeping themselves out of the house, they can get that hard copy review from Mrs. Jones with a little QR code on there and a certain amount of surveys to make sure that she's going to actually give us a solid review. And then what do those reviews say? There's some articles on our website about that. It's different now, right? Google's not publishing names of technicians and all that stuff you might have heard years and years and years ago. It's the actual integrity and quality of your company that it's going to continue to recommend as you, the advertiser, continue to advertise your company. Not to say it doesn't matter. It definitely matters who does the work. But Google's more focused on you as the firm, right? And then tracking. Even if some of our best clients, like I said, they started on paper. We got them into a really fancy Excel spreadsheet. Just the Googles, the social medias, the websites, direct call, friend of a friend from another company, right? That B2B, like the marketing for the referrals, or I call it marketing for lunches generated of like those B2B referral partners. That would be a good close proximity to you for business. And you can make them look really good. And then how you're actually answering the phone and getting that next step in that sales process or that marketing process documented. And getting to know your numbers, right? I don't want to overbore you with all the technical numbers, but some of our best clients know a few statistics. There's something called a customer acquisition cost. It's a CAC, C-A-C, and that is just how much it would cost to get a new roof installed. Like we know $545 by the time we pay the ad company, maybe even the salesman's time, maybe even the fuel time for some of these crazy analytics companies to get that truck out to the job site, quote it, and then come back. That finite number of how much that costs. Another good one is the actual conversion rate on your website. And what I mean by that is there's a funnel that, how many people are viewing, coming in, reading a little bit, filling out a contact form, and actually submitting a contact form, right? Big number to little number all the way at the end, that actual conversion rate of your website, so that, every 10 people that come, you might get one to actually move down the pipe of the next stage. And that helps design that marketing strategy of how many humans we actually need to get to look at our stuff, to hit your sales goals and to hit your sales numbers. Another thing that I notice in our business, there's not a lot of high trust anymore with the ethics of how agencies operate, but we're kind of in the business with you, right? We're in the partnership business. The determination of our success makes your success a lot better, and it helps you hit your sales numbers, which makes us look really good. And I can see that you're making a lot of money, which makes me very satisfied. So when we ask what your sales goals are and we ask, how are we hitting those numbers and those kinds of things, it's not so we can figure out how much to charge you. It's so that we can back it into, is what you're asking actually affordable, right? Can we pay enough for those leads to get them to convert at the right number, at the right speed, at the right geographic location for where you're trying to break into from a market perspective? Knowing that kind of stuff is really important for your partners to know. We're in the partnership business, not in the vendor business. You fire your vendors and you work through tough times with your partners. And we have to know, that wild, hairy, audacious goal that you're trying to hit so that we can help get you there, right? So something that we are doing, that's probably all over this video and all over in the description, all these types of things. The biggest threat to your business really isn't that lack of demand. It's the losing potential customers without realizing it, right? We are offering a free lead generation battle plan, and that's completely complimentary to you. You get to keep it. You can give it to your team. You can give it to your current agency. I don't care. My whole thing is trying to change the agency stigma in our business and making it a higher, ethical, more standard place. So we'll conduct a recon assessment of your visibility, the conversion process, your entire lead generation system, and your entire marketing plan. And we'll deliver an actual roadmap that you can take for more calls, more booked jobs, and like we just talked about, more revenue. So if that's something, we'd love to be of service to you on that. The team really loves doing those. And you'll be speaking with me personally a bit on the certain portion of that program. There's ways to do that, probably down here or right in front of my face or on my nose. And we'd love to speak with you. But I guess just in closing, some of these podcasts are going to be solos for the command post. Some of these are going to be live. Some of these are going to be in person. Some of these are going to be here in the backyard at Spartan HQ. Some are going to be maybe on the road with friends, with clients, partners of ours in the business. And if you think of anything or any questions you'd like answered, I will personally answer them. I don't use like all those AI comment bullshit things. I don't like them. Would love to hear that below. But thank you for watching and listening to the first inaugural episode of the Command Post, powered by Spartan Digital, your Special Forces marketing and advertising partner for the home services industry. God bless. Have a great day.